The fractured reflection. The mirror had always been a source of fascination for me, not for its ornate, gilded frame or the way it cast a warm, flattering glow over my reflection, but for the strange, unsettling sensation I would experience whenever I gazed into its silvered surface. There was something about the way the glass seemed to subtly distort reality, warping the image before me in ways that I couldn't quite put my finger on. At first, I dismissed it as merely a quirk of the mirror, a product of its age and craftsmanship. But as the days wore on, I found myself increasingly drawn to the subtle imperfections, the way my reflection would flicker and shift, as if the very fabric of reality were unraveling before my eyes. And with each passing glance, the unease that settled in the pit of my stomach would grow, a gnawing sense of dread that I couldn't quite shake. I began to notice other things too, the way the mirror's reflection would sometimes diverge from the reality I witnessed with my own eyes, presenting a version of myself that was ever so slightly off, with tiny, inexplicable differences. A curl of the lip, a subtle shift in the angle of my head, a fleeting expression that I couldn't quite place. And as I studied these discrepancies, a growing sense of disquiet would take hold, the nagging suspicion that something was fundamentally, irrevocably wrong. Was I seeing things? Was my mind playing tricks on me, conjuring up these unsettling distortions? I tried to convince myself that it was all in my head, that the mirror was simply an imperfect pane of glass, reflecting the world around it in a slightly distorted way. But deep down, I knew the truth. There was something much darker, much more sinister at work. The more I gazed into the mirror, the more I began to question the nature of my own existence. Was the reflection I saw truly an accurate representation of myself, or was it merely a facade that concealed something far more disturbing? As the days wore on, the discrepancies grew more pronounced, the differences between the reflection and reality becoming increasingly stark and undeniable. And then one day, as I stood before the mirror, I saw it, a flicker of movement, a subtle shift in the image before me that sent a chill down my spine. Slowly, deliberately, my reflection began to change, the features morphing and distorting in ways that I had never seen before. The eyes grew wider, the mouth twisting into a sinister grin, and a sense of raw, primal terror gripped me as I realized that what I was seeing was not my own reflection, but something else entirely. I recoiled in horror, my heart pounding, as the twisted, grotesque visage stared back at me, its eyes boring into mine with a malevolent intensity that seemed to pierce straight through to my soul. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that the reflection I had been seeing all along was not my own, but rather a manifestation of some dark, unspeakable force that had somehow taken root within me, slowly consuming my very essence. From that day on, I could never look at the mirror without a sense of dread and unease. The knowledge that the reflection I saw was not my own, but rather a twisted, distorted version of myself, a reflection of the darkness that had taken hold of my being. And as I gazed into the fractured surface, I could almost hear the whispers, the voices that seemed to call out to me from some unseen realm, beckoning me to surrender, to let the darkness consume me completely.